Welcome back to the channel, where we dive into the darkest corners of reality. Tonight, we bring you 3 spine-chilling tales of secret rooms discovered during Halloween that will make your blood run cold. These are no ordinary finds. Each room holds a shocking, terrifying secret that was never meant to be uncovered. From haunted mansions to abandoned schools and eerie basements, the horrors lurking behind these doors are beyond your wildest nightmares. Stay with us as we unravel these 3 shocking Halloween secret room discoveries. You won't believe what we found. The first story is about the haunted lighthouse secret room. The sound of crashing waves against the jagged rocks beneath the old lighthouse was as constant as the chill in the air. Perched high on a cliff overlooking the sea, the lighthouse had been abandoned for decades, save for the occasional urban explorer or paranormal investigator drawn to its disturbing reputation. The most chilling rumour surrounded a secret room within the lighthouse, a room that was said to hold unimaginable horrors. It was Halloween night when a group of friends, Jack, Emma and Liam, decided to explore the lighthouse. It was the perfect setting for some real-life scary true stories to unfold. They had been inspired by all the spooky Reddit horror stories they had read leading up to the holiday, as well as the latest analog horror videos that had been popping up on Midnight Horror Station on YouTube. Emma was a fan of ghost adventures, while Jack preferred the eerie, unnerving tales told by Twin Paranormal. Liam, on the other hand, was the skeptic of the group. He had never believed in ghosts or the paranormal, but he loved the thrill of exploration. As they made their way up the hill toward the lighthouse, the wind howled around them, creating a spooky atmosphere that was only enhanced by the distant sound of Halloween music drifting from a nearby party. Jack had brought a small Bluetooth speaker, and he played Halloween lo-fi to set the tone. The light-hearted music did little to calm their nerves as the towering lighthouse came into view. The structure was imposing, a once grand beacon now reduced to a decaying skeleton of its former self. Its windows were shattered, and the paint peeled off in large flakes, revealing the rotting wood beneath. Halloween decorations were scattered around the base of the lighthouse, likely left behind by other explorers. The sight of a lone, tattered Halloween witch, swaying in the wind, added an eerie touch to the already unsettling environment. "Are we really doing this?" Emma asked, her voice tinged with nervous excitement. Jack grinned. "Of course, it's Halloween night. What better time to explore a haunted lighthouse? Besides, think of the fascinating horror stories we can tell afterward." Liam rolled his eyes but couldn't help but feel a slight twinge of apprehension as they approached the entrance. The door creaked loudly as Jack pushed it open, revealing the darkness within. "Welcome to the depths of despair," Jack joked, referencing a popular analog horror series he had watched the night before. But there was no humour in the way his voice echoed ominously through the dilapidated structure. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the faint smell of salt water lingered in the air. Their flashlights illuminated the winding staircase that spiraled up the centre of the lighthouse, leading to the top where the light had once shone out over the ocean. But they weren't here for the view. They were searching for the secret room, the one that had been the subject of many paranormal investigations and urban legends. According to the stories, the room was hidden behind a false wall somewhere near the top of the lighthouse. It was said to have been sealed off after a series of strange occurrences, including unexplained deaths and disappearances. Some even claimed it was a portal to another dimension, a place of cosmic horror where the very fabric of reality began to unravel. As they climbed the narrow staircase, the wind howled through the broken windows, creating a ghostly wail that echoed throughout the structure. Emma shivered and pulled her jacket tighter around her. "This place gives me the creeps," she admitted. "That's the point," Jack said with a grin. "It's Halloween. We're supposed to be scared." But even Jack couldn't hide his unease as they reached the upper levels of the lighthouse. The floorboards creaked ominously beneath their feet, and the shadows seemed to dance in the corners of their vision. "Okay, according to the map I found online, the secret room should be somewhere around here," Jack said as they reached a landing just below the top floor. They began searching the walls, tapping and knocking, hoping to find a hollow spot that would reveal the hidden door. The wind outside had picked up, causing the entire structure to groan under the pressure. It felt as though the lighthouse itself was alive, watching, waiting. After several minutes of searching, Liam's flashlight flickered across a section of the wall that looked slightly different from the rest. "Hey, over here," he called. Jack and Emma hurried over as Liam pressed his hand against the wall. To their surprise, it gave way slightly, revealing a hidden door. They exchanged nervous glances before Jack slowly pushed the door open. The room inside was small and cramped, with low ceilings and walls that seemed to close in on them. In the center of the room stood a single chair, and on the floor beside it was a large, dusty chest. "This is it," Jack whispered, his excitement barely contained. The secret room. But as they stepped inside, a cold chill washed over them. The temperature seemed to drop several degrees, and the air grew heavy with a sense of dread. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she noticed something strange. There were symbols etched into the walls, symbols that seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. Liam, the skeptic, scoffed. Probably just some graffiti left by other explorers, but deep down, even he could feel that something was wrong. The atmosphere in the room was oppressive, almost suffocating. It felt as though they had entered a place where they didn't belong. Jack knelt beside the chest, his hands trembling slightly as he opened it. Inside, they found old, weathered objects, strange trinkets and relics that seemed out of place in the modern world. There were old photographs, worn-out journals, and even a small rusted lantern. But the most disturbing item was a large, leather-bound book. Its cover was inscribed with the same strange symbols that adorned the walls, and its pages were filled with incomprehensible text, written in a language none of them recognized. "This is some serious cosmic horror stuff," Jack said, his voice wavering as he flipped through the pages. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the lighthouse, followed by the sound of footsteps coming from above them. The three friends froze, their eyes wide with fear. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until they were just outside the door to the secret room. "Who's there?" Emma called out, her voice trembling. There was no answer, only the sound of breathing. Slow, heavy breathing that sent a chill down their spines. "We need to get out of here," Liam said, his voice barely above a whisper. But as they turned to leave, the door to the room slammed shut, trapping them inside. The second story is about the haunted mansion's secret room. Halloween night had always been a time of excitement and fear for Sarah, Ethan, and Lily. This year, instead of going to the usual Halloween night parties with Halloween masks and Halloween games, they decided to do something different. They were drawn to the mystery surrounding a local mansion, an old estate said to be cursed, a haunted house filled with secrets that had yet to be uncovered. The rumors spoke of a secret room, and on this particular Halloween, they were determined to find it. The mansion had been abandoned for decades, its once grand halls now filled with dust, shadows, and the occasional stray animal. Legend had it that the original owner, a reclusive man obsessed with the occult, had vanished without a trace. Ever since, the mansion had been the setting of countless ghost stories, paranormal investigations, and unexplained occurrences. Some locals claimed they had seen ghostly apparitions near the windows late at night, while others reported hearing whispers and knocking echoing through the walls. This was exactly what Sarah and her friends were looking for, a chance to experience real fear, the kind that sent shivers down your spine and lingered in your mind long after the night was over. They arrived at the mansion just after midnight, armed with flashlights, snacks, and an eerie Halloween playlist that played from Sarah's phone. "Are we sure about this?" Ethan asked, his voice shaky as they stood in front of the mansion's grand entrance. The place looked even more intimidating up close. Its once elegant windows were now cracked and covered in grime, while Halloween decorations from past years, perhaps left behind by other explorers, swayed eerily in the breeze. "Come on, it's Halloween. This is what we live for," Sarah said, trying to inject some excitement into the moment. But even she couldn't ignore the cold feeling in the air. There was something deeply unsettling about the mansion, a feeling that they weren't entirely welcome. Lily, always the bravest of the three, pushed the door open. The creak of the rusty hinges echoed through the mansion's dark hallways. Inside, the temperature seemed to drop several degrees, and a thick layer of dust coated every surface. The only sounds were their own footsteps and the occasional creak of the old wooden floors beneath them. As they ventured deeper into the mansion, the Halloween music from Sarah's phone seemed out of place, too cheerful for the grim surroundings. She switched it off, allowing the silence to envelop them completely. It wasn't long before the mansion's sinister history began to seep into their minds. This was a place where, according to the legends, murder and madness had taken root. "Do you think the stories are true?" Lily whispered as they climbed the grand staircase. "About the people who went missing here?" Ethan shrugged, though his face betrayed his nervousness. "There's always some truth to these kinds of legends, right?" The group reached the second floor, where the mysterious secret room was rumored to be hidden. The room was said to have once belonged to the mansion's owner, a room where he practiced dark rituals and communed with witches and otherworldly entities. Some claimed it was cursed, while others believed it was a portal to another realm. They moved from room to room, searching for anything out of the ordinary. The deeper they explored, the more the mansion seemed to close in on them. The air grew heavier and strange. Faint whispers seemed to follow them wherever they went. Then, in the dead of night, they found it, the secret room. The door was hidden behind a large bookshelf in the study, almost entirely concealed from view. It was Lily who first noticed it. A slight gap in the wood that indicated a hidden entrance. With a bit of effort, they pushed the bookshelf aside, revealing a narrow door that had been sealed shut for years. A deep sense of dread washed over them as Sarah turned the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Inside, there was little furniture, just a single table and chair. But what caught their attention were the walls. They were covered in strange symbols, much like the ones they had read about in ancient occult books. "This is definitely not normal," Ethan muttered, his eyes scanning the symbols. "What do you think they mean?" Before anyone could answer, the door suddenly slammed shut behind them. Panic set in as they tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if the room had come alive, trapping them within its cursed walls. The temperature plummeted, and they began to hear soft whispers growing louder, almost as if the very walls were speaking to them. Their flashlights flickered, and a sudden cold breeze swept through the room, despite the fact that there were no windows. "Something's wrong," Lily said, her voice shaking with fear. "We need to get out of here. We need..." As if in response, the room seemed to pulse with dark energy. A ghostly figure appeared in the corner, barely visible in the dim light. It was an old man, his face twisted in pain and anger. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and as he moved toward them, the temperature dropped even further. Ethan felt as if his very breath was being stolen from him. Sarah, frozen in fear, watched as the figure reached for them, its bony hand outstretched. "Go away!" she screamed, but the figure only seemed to grow stronger, its presence more oppressive. They were trapped, unable to escape the horror that had been unleashed. As the figure loomed closer, Lily noticed something, a small, ornate box on the table. Desperate, she grabbed it and threw it across the room. The box shattered upon impact, and suddenly, the figure let out a blood-curdling scream before disappearing into the shadows. The door swung open as if by magic, and the three of them wasted no time in fleeing the mansion. They didn't stop running until they were far from the estate, breathless and terrified. In the safety of their car, they sat in silence, trying to comprehend what had just happened. The secret room had been real, the ghosts and the dark energy had been real, and they had barely escaped with their lives. "I think we've had enough Halloween spirit for one night," Ethan said quietly, his voice still trembling with fear. Lily nodded, staring out the window at the mansion in the distance. "I don't think I'll ever forget what we saw in there," she whispered. As they drove away, the mansion stood silent and foreboding behind them, its secrets once again hidden in the darkness. But they knew the truth now. The haunted mansion was not just a legend, it was a real haunting, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead had been blurred. And on that fateful Halloween night, they had come far too close to crossing those boundaries themselves. The third story, is about the abandoned school's secret room. It was a cold and spooky Halloween night when three friends, Lucas, Kayla, and Ryan, decided to break into the old, abandoned school at the edge of town. The school had been deserted for decades, and it had become infamous for being one of the most haunted places in the area. Locals told true horror stories about strange occurrences there. Stories of ghosts, paranormal activity, and a secret room that held a dark and terrifying secret. The school was massive, with long, echoing hallways, crumbling walls, and shattered windows that rattled in the wind. The town had once planned to demolish it, but every attempt to do so had ended in failure. Accidents, strange weather, and other unexplained events had halted the demolition every time. The building had become an eerie relic of the past, sitting alone in the shadows like a forgotten ghost. The three friends had heard the urban legends for years, but it wasn't until Halloween night, during a Halloween party, that they decided to investigate for themselves. It was Kayla's idea. She'd always been fascinated by ghost stories and had wanted to go ghost hunting for as long as she could remember. Ryan, though more cautious, was intrigued by the stories, while Lucas was the skeptic. He didn't believe in ghosts or supernatural entities, but he loved a good thrill. They arrived at the school just after midnight, carrying flashlights, backpacks, and snacks to last them through the night. The moon was high in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows over the building's exterior. Halloween decorations from a long-forgotten Halloween night party still hung in some of the classrooms, swaying gently in the breeze. The place was a scene straight out of a creepy horror movie. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," Ryan said nervously as they approached the front door, which was already ajar. "We've come this far," Kayla replied, her voice filled with excitement. "Let's see if the stories are true." Lucas rolled his eyes. "It's just an old building. There's nothing to be afraid of." As they stepped inside, a cold draft hit them immediately. The air felt heavy, and the smell of dust and decay was overwhelming. The floors creaked under their feet, and their flashlights barely pierced the thick darkness. The atmosphere was suffocating, filled with the weight of decades of paranormal stories and disturbing history. The school was a maze of hallways, classrooms, and offices, all in various stages of disrepair. Old desks and chairs were scattered about, and faded textbooks littered the floors. The once bright murals on the walls had long since faded, replaced by graffiti and dark stains that hinted at a more sinister past. Every so often, they heard faint whispers, like the echoes of students who had long since disappeared. "This place gives me the creeps," Ryan whispered, glancing over his shoulder as though expecting to see someone or something lurking in the shadows. "You're just getting in the Halloween spirit," Lucas teased, but even he couldn't deny the eerie feeling that had settled over them. Their goal was to find the infamous secret room, the one rumored to be hidden deep within the school. According to the legend, the room had been sealed off after a series of terrifying encounters involving students and staff members. Some claimed that a dark ritual had been performed there, and others believed it was a place where a supernatural entity had taken hold of the building. As they made their way deeper into the school, the atmosphere became even more unsettling. Their flashlights flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Every creak of the floorboards made their hearts race, and the air seemed to grow colder with every step. "This is starting to feel like a bad idea," Ryan muttered as they reached a staircase leading down to the basement. Kayla, always the bravest of the group, led the way. "We can't stop now. The secret room is supposed to be in the basement." The basement was worse than the rest of the school, dark, damp, and filled with the sound of dripping water. Their footsteps echoed loudly as they descended, and the feeling of being watched grew stronger with each step. It was as if the walls themselves were closing in on them, filled with a dark energy that seemed to pulse through the air. When they reached the bottom of the stairs, they found a long hallway with several doors on either side. The doors were rusted and damaged, and most of them wouldn't budge when they tried to open them. But at the end of the hallway, they found what they had been looking for: a large, heavy door that appeared to have been sealed shut with metal chains and padlocks. This had to be the secret room. Lucas examined the door, his skepticism faltering as he took in the sight of the heavy chains. Why would someone go through so much trouble to seal this door? Kayla didn't hesitate, because whatever's inside wasn't meant to be let out. With a bit of effort, they managed to break the chains and pry the door open. The room inside was dark, but their flashlights revealed an old classroom that looked untouched by time. The desks and chairs were still arranged neatly, as if waiting for students to return. But there was something horribly wrong with the room. It was too clean, too well preserved, in contrast to the decay that had taken over the rest of the school. In the center of the room was a large, circular symbol carved into the floor. It was surrounded by candles that had long since burned out. The walls were covered in strange symbols, like the markings of some ancient ritual. The air was thick with the feeling of something unexplained and sinister. "This place is cursed," Ryan whispered, taking a step back. "We shouldn't be here." Before they could leave, the door slammed shut behind them, trapping them inside. Panic set in as they tried to force it open, but it wouldn't budge. Then, the whispers began again, louder this time, as if coming from all around them. Their flashlights flickered and then went out, plunging the room into darkness. Suddenly, the air grew colder, and they felt a presence, a ghostly presence, that filled the room with an overwhelming sense of dread. The candles on the floor flickered to life, casting an eerie glow over the room. In the dim light, they could see shadows moving across the walls, though there was no one else in the room. Kayla's breath caught in her throat as she saw a figure standing in the corner, a tall, dark figure with glowing eyes that seemed to stare directly into her soul. The figure moved slowly toward them, its form shifting and changing as it drew nearer. It was as if the very darkness had come to life. "Get away from us!" Lucas shouted, but his voice was drowned out by the sound of footsteps and whispers that filled the room. The figure reached out toward them, its touch cold and paralyzing. They could feel the fear creeping into their minds, overwhelming them with a sense of helplessness. It was as if the room itself was feeding on their terror, drawing them deeper into its cursed embrace. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, Kayla remembered something she had read in one of her ghost hunting books. Sometimes, the only way to break the curse was to destroy the symbols of power. Without thinking, she grabbed a chair and smashed it down onto the carved symbol in the center of the floor. The effect was immediate. The figure let out a blood-curdling scream, and the candles were snuffed out all at once. The room grew still and quiet, and the door slowly creaked open, allowing them to escape. They didn't stop running until they were outside, gasping for breath. The old school loomed behind them, its secrets once again hidden in the shadows. They had survived the night, but the memory of the secret room and the supernatural entity that had nearly claimed them would haunt them forever. As they walked away, the feeling of being watched lingered in the air, a reminder that some places, like the abandoned school, are best left undisturbed. And that's it for tonight's video. These stories remind us that not all secrets are meant to be uncovered, especially on Halloween. Sometimes, what lies hidden should remain buried. If these tales sent chills down your spine, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more bone-chilling stories that are sure to keep you up at night. And remember, this Halloween, if you come across a secret room, you might want to think twice before opening the door. Thanks for watching, and stay spooky.